Hey everybody, it's time for another installment of Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripeHype.com, a fan site exclusive network, a podcast that's really awesome, where we talk Bengals, and we talk the right things about the Bengals, and we're very honest about the Bengals, and, more stuff about the Bengals. Tim Daniel here, bringing another, as always, my excellent panel to join us on the show, Matt Wilson and Shelby Dermer, our numbers guy. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Is this podcast about the Bengals?
Something about that.
Okay.
But it's all about the good stuff about the Bengals, all the right stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The honest stuff. The honest stuff.
Lamani Jones, the right time.
So, guys, I'm going to start the show this week with, you guys have been requesting it and trying to egg me on, so I think it's finally going to happen. It's time for another Tim Daniel Rant. It's been a little while, hasn't it?
Hey.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I'm a little pissed off, guys. I'm a little annoyed with, not the Bengals themselves, even though it's been a rough year. I'm a little annoyed with them, obviously, but I'm going to call out some Bengal fans here for sheer stupidity. And that is because on Lance McAllister's blog this week, he posted a poll. And the poll stated, is it time for A.J. McCarron to play over Andy Dalton? And 50% of you people, yes, I'm calling you out, said yes, that they should bench Andy Dalton for A.J. McCarron. And my question to you is, what the hell are you thinking? And I'm going to start going through all these things. First off, let's go ahead and start here. I understand this is a rough year and things haven't gone their way, but like all these complaints about Andy Dalton and bad throws and all these things, let's go ahead and knock this out. He's a professional athlete. He's, in the toughest position in sports. Aaron Rodgers sometimes makes bad throws. Oh my God, that's so crazy. Sometimes Joey Votto looks at strike three in the corner. Oh my God, that happens. Steph Curry sometimes misses open threes. Matt, you're a Pirates fan. Sometimes Sidney Crosby misses shots on goal. My point with that is this. If we're going to complain about Andy Dalton missing 5 throws when he throws 35 in a game, we've got problems. That's the most utter stupid frickin' thing ever because, oh my God, bad things happen. And the other thing is this. We're going to talk about how bad he looked last week against Baltimore. It's really difficult to look good when you don't have your best player on your team and your offensive line is still not helping you out and you're getting blindside hit 3 times. 3 times he was blindside hit in that game. Like, come on. Not to mention he doesn't have his second best target right now in the backfield, so things aren't going too hot there. The argument for A.J. McCarron. Okay, I'll touch on that real quick because I get it. Like, the resume looks good. He went to Alabama and he won. He won some national championships. He won a lot of games. Like, shit. I think the 3 of us could have won at Alabama with those guys they're bringing in there each and every year. Like, for the love of God, we could have had national championship rings on those teams. And that's not the dog on McCarron because he has done well and he played decent when he has time last year. But, like, if we're going to say that because of 4 games last year where he had, like, what, Shelby, 4 touchdowns in those games? Maybe?
Yeah, something around 200 yards a game.
That he's better than Andy Dalton, then we are the stupidest city in sports world. And that's not even close. Like, this is a city that wants to get rid of Joey Votto for getting on base too much. This is a city that, like, begged for the Royals to leave at one point, and they did so they couldn't have to watch Oscar Robertson play anymore. Like, let's be honest here, people. There may be, what would you guys say, maybe 13 or 14 good quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And if you don't think Andy Dalton's one of them, you are sorely mistaken. You're 100% wrong.
Tim, you nailed it. I've been waiting for this Tim Daniel rant. It's only been mentioned. It's like the Loch Ness monster until today. But yeah, you hit it on the head. I mean, before AJ Green went down, and prior to really even the Giants game, I think really before the Bills game, Dalton looked great.
Yeah.
I mean, when you factor in how bad the offensive line has been. Jeremy Hill's not been very good. Dalton was making great plays and very, very resilient this season. So I'm with you on everything you said.
So, yeah, like, the perfect example of that is the Cleveland game. The touchdown pass he had to LaFell was, like, probably one of the 3 best throws I've ever seen Andy Dalton have. Like, that was on the money. And he's made throws like that all year up until maybe the fourth quarter of the Washington game where the offensive line just, like, didn't know how to block anybody.
Yeah, he had a bad interception that game in Washington territory on a really good zone blitz by the Redskins where he just got completely annihilated and floated one over Eifert's head. And it didn't help that he fumbled in overtime on a quarterback sneak where he got stripped by a 300-something Albert Haynesworth lookalike.
But the guy hit his head on the ball, so like shit. I'm sure that's going to happen at some point.
Right.
Again, I'm not saying that Andy Dalton's been outstanding these past couple weeks. I get it, but like to say that we need to bench him to get a quote unquote a spark. This isn't Jay Cutler. This isn't like Cutler's just not doing it. Bears are done. Let's see what we got in Clausen. That's not how this goes. And the other thing too is like if we have AJ McCarron go back to we bench Andy Dalton, what's it going to look like when people aren't open downfield and someone's got to scramble? It's not going to look as good as when Andy Dalton's scrambling. I'm going to tell you that much.
And are the Bears are going with Clausen now? Isn't it Barkley?
Yeah, I'm saying no. Like the example a couple years back before
okay.
They benched Cutler before he got hurt.
I know Clausen's your guy, so I thought maybe you mixed it up.
No. I've been trying to like petition for him, but So, but I mean, let's just kind of call what it is, guys. Like, we are a lucky franchise to have a quarterback like Andy Dalton. This is a guy that's already done more in his time in Cincinnati than Carson Palmer, who was the number 1 overall pick and started this Marvin Lewis era. This is a guy that we have a shot still in these games because of what he's done in this offense. I think he has been limited by Ken Zampese. I won't lie to you there. He's always been limited by his offensive line. He has no run game. There is no A.J. Green. People are double, triple covering Tyler Eifert, so he's not making enough plays for them to go win right now, and that's understandable. And he is relying on Brandon LaFell and Tyler Boyd and James Wright to go make things happen. Like, unless you're Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning, there's a good chance you're not or Tom Brady. You're probably not going to win many games with those 3 wide receivers.
James Wright making plays.
He is.
But yeah, you look at that. Brandon LaFell and Tyler Boyd. This is the first year they've worked with Dalton,
right?
Compared to last year when you had camaraderie and Sanu, Marvin Jones, and Green had all worked with him before in the past. That there was, they were familiar with each other, and you saw the offense click where Dalton could get throws out in a hurry, very short release, and with Eifert in the mix as well, they could do things after the catch. The offensive line protected, and it was the perfect storm, and it's been a polar opposite this season.
Matt, you've been quiet.
Well, my first question to you is, who does Sidney Crosby play for?
The Penguins.
There you go. You said the Pirates.
Who gives a shit?
No. Let's see. Penguins and Pirates fans.
That city's irrelevant.
But then again, Cincinnati wouldn't know what a national hockey team looked like anyway. But since anything, yeah, I agree with you. First off, AJ McCarron is good in his own right. I'm not going to dog the guy. I mean, he came in and did his thing. Right. But come on, anybody who thinks AJ McCarron is a better option than Andy Dalton, you haven't watched. This must be your first season watching the NFL. Because plain and simple, AJ McCarron is good, but Andy Dalton has done everything but win a playoff game. I mean, he's gone 8-0. He basically tied a franchise best with 12 wins.
He was an MVP candidate last year.
He was an MVP candidate last year. And guess what? He's got a brand new offensive coordinator who has given him zero control. Who happened to be his quarterback's coach, who just thinks he knows better than Andy Dalton, and he doesn't. The offensive coordinator is a moron. I know I've said that about Paul Guenther, and at times he's been an idiot too. But there's one thing that at least the defense has done in the past, 3.5 games? And that's show up.
Yeah, they have.
And so Paul Guenther, I think, is finally off the hook from my rants. But Ken Zampese hasn't done crap with this team. And yes, I understand. He now has A.J. Green injured. He now has Giovanni Bernard. He started off the season not having Eifert and really not having some healthy options there. But at the same time, Hugh Jackson had plenty of players injured and did 3 times as much as what Ken Zampese has done. And I'm sorry, but that's not how an offensive coordinator is. If you want to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL with a good team like the Cincinnati Bengals has been, with the talent that the Cincinnati Bengals has, then win some goddamn games.
But let's look at that, though, because Hugh Jackson, you gave him credit, and last year he deserved all the credit because the offense was amazing. But, this year, Zampese, with the offense this year, you can't blame it on one person. We just defended Andy Dalton, and you have to defend Ken Zampese because of the same things, because Dalton's working with new receivers, because the offensive line's being bad. You can't blame it all on Andy Dalton. You can't blame it all on Ken Zampese. And you rewind to Hugh Jackson in 2014, they got shut out by the Indianapolis Colts, and then, went home, put 3 points on the board against the Browns and lost by 21 points. And what was the reasoning there? Because Andy Dalton didn't have A.J. Green, Giovanni Bernard, all the injuries in that game, and ended up losing against the Colts in the playoffs with a limited cast too. Rex Burkhead was one of the leading receivers in that game. Hugh Jackson, in his own right was fantastic, but we only really saw that. That's why he wasn't a head coaching prospect after the 2014 season. He was after last year when everybody was healthy, everybody was familiar with one another. There was tempo, there was rhythm, and but we go to this season and none of that is there, and that's why you can't really blame it on one guy, and you can't blame it on Zampese either in his first year running an entire offense.
Well, then let's go back to 2014 because you brought it up, and that normally we get along on this show. We're not going to get along for this, but so in 2014, Marvin Jones went down for the entire season.
Yep.
He had pretty much a fairly new receiver in terms of Mohamed Sanu playing out.
No.
He was 1 year in.
2012 was Sanu. 2012 was Sanu's first year.
I thought it was 2013.
No, him and Marvin were in the same draft class.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
Because Sanu threw a touchdown in 2012 against the Redskins.
2011.
But let's keep going.
No, that was 2012 against the Redskins. 4 years later, 2016, we played the Redskins.
Okay. Let's still go. Okay. But Tyler Eifert got injured, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so did AJ Green.
Yep.
Still played.
So did Jermaine Gresham.
Still played 14 games.
But how many? But how many games did the Bengals win in 2014 with all these injuries?
10.
Well, the one biggest thing in that was, one, the defense was better, even if you take into account these last 3 games. And that was the year Jeremy Hill was saving everyone with 100-something yards a game through the last 8 or 9 weeks.
You say the defense is better, but let's run through this because I have it up. They lost to the New England Patriots 17-43. Defense sucked. They tied the Carolina Panthers.
Hold on, time out. We're going to go back to that Patriots game. Let's remember, that's a Patriots team that was utterly pissed off coming off a Monday night meltdown to the Chiefs.
Then let me continue going because we're going to get into that. Carolina Panthers, they tied in overtime 37-37. That means
what were Cam Newton's
up
stats in that game? Look at Cam's numbers that game and tell me he was stoppable.
Okay. Well, Indiana Colts won 0-27.
We lost.
Well, I said the Indiana Colts won.
Okay.
I reversed that. That was my fault for wording. They beat Baltimore by 3 points, which was a 27-24. I'll give a pass just because that's a division game. They beat a abysmal Jacksonville Jaguars team, but the Jacksonville Jaguars still scored 23 points. The Cleveland Browns beat the Bengals 3-24. The Pittsburgh Steelers also came into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals 21-42. And Denver Broncos at Paul Brown Stadium, granted, I understand the whole situation, still put up 28 points. And the Steelers then also beat them at Heinz Field 17-27.
Okay, so you brought up the Browns 24-3, but you're going to throw out that they shut out because that was the one game you didn't mention just now. They beat them 30-0 late in the season. You failed to mention that when you went to Denver and Pittsburgh and late in the season there. You failed to mention that one.
And that was also the first game for Mr. Johnny Manziel, who was absolutely terrible in his whole career.
Well, if we're going to go to that point, now I see where you're going from, definitely, but let's remember also, that's a team that went to the Superdome and held Drew Brees at 250.
Yeah.
They were on fire.
I'm not saying that the defense was terrible for the whole season, but what I am comparing it to is the Bengals defense has had their moments this year where they've been terrible. They had their moments in 2014 where they were terrible, but they still found a way to pull out 10 wins. Went 10-4-1 in that season. So we got to go back to the offense, and you got to look at the leader of the offense, because let's face it, Marvin Lewis has nothing to do with the offense. He doesn't have a clue how to run an offense, and he never has been because he's a defensive coach.
Right.
And that's Ken Zampese, who is leading that offense, and he has done a terrible job with the situation he's been put into. And yes, I understand he has 2 brand new receivers, but at the same time, at some point in the season, you have to have some type of rapport with these receivers, and at some point in the season, you got to turn Andy Dalton loose to do the thing that Andy Dalton does best, and that's call plays at the line and show different coverages and make the adjustments that he needs to. And Ken Zampese looks like he's basically put handcuffs on Andy Dalton and has made 0 in-game adjustments.
Well, when you turn Andy Dalton loose, how much protection is he getting from the offensive line? And then, they tried to turn him loose against Baltimore, and you got Russell Bodine snapping a ball too early, and we cost him a red zone fumble. Eric Winston gives up the game-winning sack. So, and when you don't have the complement of a run game like Hugh Jackson did in 2014 when they were able to win 10 games, it turns into an offensive travesty where you're held to 12 points against the Bills, you're held to 12 points against the Ravens, not to mention Mike Nugent isn't reliable to put up points when you do drive. Jesus. It turns into 3-7-1, which we're at right now.
So, first off, I've never agreed with Eric Winston being on the field.
They got it. They're
we have a lot. We have a lot to talk about this show, guys. You know this, right? Here, last point I'll make before we move on here. If A.J. McCarron was already better than Andy Dalton, they would have made the move by now. All right.
Right.
Let's go ahead and talk Baltimore, guys, because it was a disaster, as we've mentioned 3 or 4 times. Eric Winston giving up game-winning sacks. At times, our defense not looking like, defensive line not looking like Joe Flacco is just going to do whatever he wants back there. By the way, our secondary, I was actually really happy with that game, with him in that game, minus Darqueze Dennard, which I'm really starting to bum me out about that, because you know how much I love DD. And
yes.
So, again, no running game, but the spark that Rex Burkhead gave when he actually got chances to run the ball, I was impressed. Tyler Boyd having a pretty good day. And Tyler Eifert gets in the end zone again for his second catch the second time this year. But overall, same old Bengals, man. Mike Nugent missing kicks, missing the extra point. Almost missed his 38-yard field goal that he had there. Was very close. And here's the thing about that game that frustrates me the most. I can understand if the Bengals lost a close game. I can live with that. Baltimore's terrible! They're not good! And they looked like the worst team at times in that field. It looks like the Bengals were the better team quite a bit in that game. And they still beat them! The Bengals never led in that game because Baltimore was... What did they do special? Besides the one throw Flacco has is the first touchdown the first drive. What did Baltimore do special in that game other than that? Steve Smith was garbage in that game. Dennis Pitta was garbage. Terrence West had a few good runs here and there, and Kenneth Dixon had some decent plays here and there. But that's about it. Joe Flacco is... We want to talk about bad quarterbacks you talk about Andy Dalton being a bad quarterback. Come on. We're talking about Joe Flacco here.
Except in the playoffs for some reason.
Right, yeah. It's the
playoffs.
Right. Here's what I'll say about that, man. Because I know, if the Baltimore Ravens are going to be the team that represents the AFC North in the playoffs this year, I am utterly embarrassed for our division.
Well, they're not going to be the team that represents the AFC North in the playoffs because they still have a tougher schedule going forward than the Steelers do, even though I know the Steelers, tend to play down to competition. But they play the Ravens one more time in Pittsburgh. They have the tiebreaker right now, but it's not going to stay that way because it was a terrible team. And, it starts with, we gave Gunther credit, which he deserves the last 3 weeks, but for some reason, the first drive, they can't get it together.
Right, it's weird.
But we clamor down on Lewis and Zampese for not making adjustments. Paulie G does a pretty good job making adjustments because, he's given up touchdown drives to start the game 7 times this season. I believe that's the number. A field goal on one of those. So 8 out of the 11 games, the other team has started the game with points. So you're behind the 8 ball early. But it's a secret weapon, or not really a secret, but it's a lethal weapon is the right word for it. When Flacco only has to drive 25 to 30 something yards, get 3 first downs, and then Justin Tucker can come in and put 3 points on the board. And I told Matt, Tim, before you joined us, any other team most of the teams the Bengals play in that scenario, they give up 13 points that game, maybe 16, because there's not another kicker in the NFL that's going to nail 3 50-yard field goals in one half and make them look like extra points.
Yeah, I that's the thing that Baltimore does special is Justin Tucker. Like that's it. Yeah. It's so frustrating because like if we look at this 53 against 53, like obviously when healthy, it's easy to say the Bengals are the better team. But I still feel like even now, if you look 53 against 53, you can make the argument the Bengals are the better team, even with a 3-7-1 record. But and I get it, Josh Shaw starting at safety, which I thought he did a pretty good job. Without Darren Smith and Sean Williams there. So I thought it's just I'm so frustrated about it because this team is not far away from being 7-3-1. You know what I mean? Like
10 points.
10 points. Like, and so that's what's so hard about it is like we know they're good enough, and I know that it's been a down year and there's been some missing things and there are some holes in the team, but they're good enough. It just things keep happening where they can't close out the game. And they should really only have if we look at this on paper, what do you say? Maybe 3 losses. I can count Pittsburgh. You can say Pittsburgh can go either way.
I say 4 because Pittsburgh, Denver, Dallas, and New England.
Yeah, but the Pittsburgh game they could have won if some things went their way.
Yeah. Well, that's.
I know.
Yeah, the Jets could have beat us.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I feel like they should have lost that Jets game if it weren't for AJ Green.
Nick Folk missed an extra point.
Yeah, or that's it's a tie game, and so it's just it's what's so maddening about it is I don't know, going back to my previous thing, if it's not for Justin Tucker, the Bengals win that game, and that's sad.
Right. Yeah.
But I just. What do you guys think?
It's just one of those years, Tim. It's one of those years.
And here's the thing.
It's 2010. It's 2010, dude.
When you look at you look at their individual seasons. Yes, you're right. 2010. You and I have had this conversation.
It's 2010. In 2010, we lost so many close games, and it's also like the Ravens last year lost 8 or 9 games that were decided by 8 points or less, and it's just frustrating because there's so many problems. But at the end of the day, against the Bills, the Giants, and the Ravens, we're one drive away from going down and winning the game, and it's one of those years.
And things are going their way before that fumble too. There's the pass interference play. Dalton's hitting people on 3rd and 7. Guys that you're Alex Erickson just made a catch. What the hell?
James Wright making plays.
Right.
James Wright can play.
I agree. And Rex Burkhead's hitting holes and getting 8-9 yard carries, and you're holy crap, they're gonna win this game. And then no. And it's just you're right, man. It's 2010 because if you look at it, we've talked about this for you and I off air. 2010 was a rough year, but Terrell Owens put up ridiculous numbers that year. We're seeing that again with players 2016 is a tough year, but Drake Kirkpatrick's phenomenal this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 2016 is a rough year, but Carlos Dunlap's got 5.5 sacks and 7 bat downs.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me. I agree, man. It's rough.
Yeah. There's a reason why Average Joe is called Average Joe. Because he's terrible. But that first... but that first drive, and it always gets me. The Bengals in their first drive, I don't know. Were they this bad last season, Shelby?
No.
With first drives?
No.
Hold on,
I know.
I'm doing a little.
Only one game that I remember off the top of my head. E.J. Manuel, the game he started for Buffalo, they scored the first drive.
Yes.
And I think
Pittsburgh
the second
scored
Pittsburgh game,
at home because I was there.
I was too. Because because Pittsburgh scored, then we drive down the field, and then of course Dalton breaks his
and
spell.
Dalton got hurt. Yeah. Arizona didn't. The game we lost, we scored first in that game. We killed St. Louis, killed Cleveland both times. Baltimore we opened up. Seattle didn't. Baltimore we opened up a 14-0 lead in Baltimore last year, and then Tyler Eifert's catch at the goal line, if you remember.
Yeah, it's
That was ruled an incompletion. I'm thinking over. The Chiefs didn't even score a touchdown against us.
No, Cairo Santos had a Justin Tucker
7
game.
field goals.
Yeah.
We got up early on the Chargers because Keenan Allen muffed a punt.
That's right.
We were up big on Oakland.
Yeah.
Up early on Denver.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was 17-0 before.
14-0.
Even
was
the
it
Houston game. The Houston game.
It's supposed to be 17, but they missed the kick.
The Houston game was
3-0.
3-0. Yeah.
Another missed kick by Mike Nugent.
Oh my God! We could do an hour show on that, like,
Yeah.
and not having it still have plenty of time to talk about it. But like, yeah. So I don't know, man. It's getting hard, and it's not easy. And like, there are bright spots, like I said. And this is a very loaded NFL draft coming up, so I guess we can already start our speculation of who they're going to take. So that's nice. We'll get to that another time and place. But
Let's agree that we'll start that when they're mathematically eliminated.
I agree. Yes.
Just because.
Is that this week? Is that possible?
No. Maybe. Probably. Yeah.
The way things are going. Yeah. All right, so I guess we could touch there, unless, Matt, you have any additional comments on the Ravens game. I feel like we all just feel bleh about that game.
Offensive line was the worst.
All I have, my final comment to that is Baltimore still sucks. We shouldn't have lost. But, yeah, Baltimore still sucks.
Are they trying to make the Bengals and Ravens like a college football rivalry where, like, it's the last game of the year every year and it's like a home?
Yeah.
Is that weird to you? Like, it's been, 6 of the last 7 now?
Well, I know it was last year, obviously, and then 2014 we finished the season at Pittsburgh because that's when Le'Veon Bell got hurt.
Yeah.
2013 we finished the season against the Ravens. 2012 finished the season against the Ravens backups. 2011 finished the season, lost to the Ravens, and they won the division. So
That's
yeah,
right.
in the Dalton Green era, 5 out of the last 6. 2010, yeah, because Carson Palmer, we lost 13-7 in 2010 in
That's
Baltimore.
Right. That was
And then
Carson's last game.
Yeah, so 6 out of the last 7 because 2009 we finished at the Jets. We lost 37-3 because we were benching our starters.
Yeah. So, brings us to the next point here. Shelby, you're someone I'm very interested in this because you have echoed your displeasures with what Jeremy Hill has become these last couple seasons. And I don't think I'm ready for this, but it has been a discussion that's very interesting conversation. There's just those people that have been rumblings that with what they're starting to see from Rex Burkhead, as far as like the abilities he brings to the field and the things he does, and he's a football player. We've talked about this here. He does everything the right way when he is on the field. There's been some people that are saying that they're at the point now where they're willing to not re-sign Jeremy Hill in a couple years and have Rex Burkhead and Giovanni Bernard be the running backs. Are you on board?
I'm on board.
Are you?
You know, as much as Jeremy Hill has done, we haven't seen his rookie form yet, and I like him it's tough for me because I think he's a good running back, but he's lost something from the rookie season that he just hasn't been able to find. In 2014, so it's a year we've been talking about a lot so far on this podcast. It didn't make sense that he was going off, and I only say that because the Bengals were without so many playmakers on offense. You would think they would stack the box and make Andy Dalton throw to Kobe Hamilton and Greg Little, and Mohamed Sanu was the only healthy role receiver. And then last year, everyone's healthy. Jeremy Hill gets a sizable workload, a starter's workload, and when you think, oh, everyone's healthy, Jeremy Hill's going to have a big year in 2015 because they're worried about AJ Green, Tyler Eifert, Marvin Jones, Mohamed Sanu. It just didn't work out, and he didn't rush for 100 yards once. And he had fumbling issues against the Chargers, got benched. Giovanni Bernard had the only 100-yard game for the Bengals all season. And, just something was missing, whether it was an injury that he just didn't disclose or didn't come forward about. And, I don't know. But when you look at Rex Burkhead and Giovanni Bernard, they hit the holes. And Jeremy Hill's not Le'Veon Bell where he can, pause and dance around in the backfield and then hit the holes really quick. He's a downhill runner. And I've said it a million times that he's hesitant where he looks like later years Rudy Johnson.
I will say, I do feel like he's going to have a big game this week because Philly has definitely come back down to earth at defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, I'm not there yet. Like I said, like, I love Rex Burkhead.
Right.
It's hard not to like Rex Burkhead. He is a football player, man. He shows up, he gets the job done, he does what he has to do, whether it be kick returning, being on the kickoff team, playing on the punt team, running the ball, lining up as a slot receiver. Like, he gets it done. But I still think that there is there's something about Jeremy Hill where I still think every week that like he might have run for 150. So I don't know. I'm a little back and forth on it. Matt, what do you think about it, man? Are you there yet? Like, are you against this notion?
The only issue I have is I think if you do both Giovanni Bernard and Rex Burkhead, I think you almost have two guys who are too close to being mirrors of each other. Both are very good pass catchers out of the backfield. Both like to make plays in terms of the edges and trying to break out. And both know how to kind of drop their head and kind of that third down back stance. So for me, I almost think you need the Jeremy Hill in order to balance out the run game. Mm-hmm. But I'm not too far away from saying, you know what, Hill had his chance. But then again, we also, not 10 minutes ago, we argued the fact that the offensive line's been terrible.
Right.
So, I mean, how much is it on Jeremy Hill compared to how much it is on the run block in front of him?
Well, I think, and this isn't to say this is the case, but if you remember, Matt and Shelby, in 2009, do you remember this team was running 3 running backs out there and they were like successful? They won the division that year. They had Larry
2009?
Johnson. Yeah, Larry Johnson, Cedric Benson, and
Bernard Scott.
Bernard Scott, that's right. And Kenny Watson was even making plays for that team.
No,
year before was Kenny Watson. I'm sorry. My fault. Yeah, because Kenny Watson at one point was like the team's leading rusher in 2008. By the way, I still see him from time to time in the area, which is kind of cool. He's like a super cool dude. But would that be a possibility for this team? Get Rex Burkhead some touches.
I love it.
You have Jeremy Hill. You still going in there, and you still have Giovanni Bernard. Like, is that an idea you guys are against?
Not against it at all. I mean, I've been saying it for a while that Rex Burkhead has earned himself some touches. And, he does everything that kind of Giovanni Bernard does in terms of catching the ball out of the backfield, and pass blocking is a big thing too.
Yeah, completely.
Undersized, but still blocks in the passing game pretty well, and I'd be all for it. A 3-headed monster coming out, and Jeremy Hill kind of being more in the the goal line red zone kind of guy. Yeah. Because outside Cleveland, he hasn't really broken any big runs this season.
Well, Denver, he had the one that started the first drive.
This season.
Yeah.
Oh, Denver. Yeah.
But true, for the most part, you're right. By the way, is that becoming an AFC North rivalry too? That's 3 years in a row.
What?
The Bengals and Broncos. Is that becoming an AFC rivalry? 3 years in a row we've had to play those guys.
Well, it's because we finish at the top of the standings every year.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen next year. No.
Right. Well, last year we played the AFC West.
Yeah.
It honestly could happen this year because right now we're both in 3rd place.
True.
So.
And the Raiders are filthy, as we discussed. So let's stick with the running back the group for this next discussion. We talked about this quite a bit as far as when will they give William Jackson a chance to play this year, and now we know that's not happening. They decided to go with Cedric Pierman. I get it. Giovanni Bernard's hurt. Cedric Pierman has been a very good player on the special teams for this team, but I don't know if I necessarily think it's the right move, strictly because, other than Dre Kirkpatrick, can you tell me a corner who's been really good for this team?
Yeah.
And at this point where they're at in the season, they're very much everything but done. It's what we're looking at. And I thought it would have been good to see, if Jackson's healthy, of course. Maybe we don't know if he's there yet. It would have been good to see what he can bring to this table as this team builds for the future. Matt, what do you think on that?
Well, you asked about the fact that Drake Kirkpatrick was really the only good corner. I think too, for the limited action that Josh Shaw has seen, he's done some fairly good things too.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't count Josh Shaw out of that, but at the same time, he's only been more limited, and so his role has been limited. But what I think that the secondary really needs, and it's nothing against Sean Williams, because I think that in a backup role, in a limited role that he's been in the past, he's done very well. I don't think he took to the limelight very well in terms of that starting role. I think maybe he wasn't mature enough for it. Not to say that he's too young for it, because he's obviously not. He's in the NFL, but the maturity level just didn't seem like it was there for Sean Williams. And so for me, that secondary is something that really has to get back to the 2015 form. And granted, I know we don't have Reggie Nelson, but Darqueze Dennard, I think if he can stay healthy, and that's the issue that we're having with him, he has potential. He has the talent and the capability, but he needs to stay healthy. Adam Jones, I'm still on the fence with him because he had such a great 2015 campaign, but it almost looks like he played for the contract, and then now that he has the contract,
he definitly aged during the offseason.
Yeah, like all of a sudden the contract made him 10 years
aging.
older. but it almost seems like the contract made him 10 years older.
Right.
All in 1 year. And so it's hard for me to sit here and say that the secondary isn't an issue. I just want to see I want to see the guys get healthy, and I want to see the young talent really grow like they're supposed to. And I think Josh Shaw would be a good player to really kind of even take more of a role from even Adam Jones when it comes to it finally being time.
Yeah, well, with Pac-Man this year, when he's gotten burned, it's been like a big deal because he got burned by Beckham for a touchdown, but we don't see a lot of the times where he's not even thrown to.
Yeah,
because he's gotten good coverage on him. So I think because the limited times we've seen him when he's gotten thrown to, he's gotten burned a few times, so it gives him a bad rap. But for the most part, I think he has average games. But last year he was a lot better, and the Bengals' pass rush was a lot better. But I like Josh Allen. Will they even re-sign Dennard?
Yeah.
His rookie contract ends this season, and with the injuries, and when he was playing behind Terrence Newman and Leon Hall in his rookie season, his two biggest plays, he had a strip of Daniel Boom Herron in the playoffs against the Colts, and he had an interception off E.J. Manuel last season. Other than that, it's like, what has he done to warrant a contract extension? But back to your original question, Tim, was about Pearman or Jackson. I don't really think that move isn't gonna make or break the season.
No.
Either of those two, unless Cedric Pearman causes a fumble on special teams, or honestly the same with William Jackson, because if Jackson was activated, that's the only thing he would have done is play gunner. That's why Cheeky Brown was playing it against the Ravens last week. But I was shocked by it only because you still have Rex Burkhead coming in, and you don't really use three backs all that much, and also with Chris Lewis Harris being waived, I thought that Jackson and with Jackson being a rookie, like you guys mentioned, it's like his tryout, seeing what he can do. So I was a little shocked by it, but I think it's getting too much reaction overall because it's not going to make or break.
Did you say Drake Kirkpatrick was in his final year, or Darqueze was in his final year?
Darqueze
has one more year.
He does.
2017 is his final year, and then 18 he would be a free agent if they don't pick up the option.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah, because yeah. That's not what I'm saying in that situation. I just I thought for a team that's been very limited in the secondary, and I thought that maybe for a situation where we know that it's going to be Jeremy Hill and Rex Burkhead carrying the load, I thought that might be something to worry about. By the way, if something happens here, does this mean Trey Carson's coming off the practice squad? Are we going to see him play this year?
Maybe.
I'd be down. I like Trey Carson.
Yeah. But has the secondary been, I don't know, what do the Bengals rank in terms of pass defense? 20-something?
Probably.
Yeah.
But
has it been that bad?
I don't think so.
There's a few instances, Tom Brady lights him up.
Kenny Stills touchdown.
And the Redskins. But, Dak Prescott, I think he threw for 250, but that game was more about Ezekiel Elliott going up to a 28-0 lead. The biggest one that stands out to me was Trevor Siemian throwing 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
Which as the season has progressed, that looks like almost like a fluke, if we're being honest.
We are.
From how Siemian's played this season. He did play well against the Chiefs last Sunday. Actually not going to play this Sunday against Jacksonville, Siemian. He's hurt. But, honestly, I haven't seen the pass defense be that bad. But the reoccurring theme is linebackers trying to cover tight ends, which just killed them.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's go ahead and touch. We just have a little bit longer here for us. We're running pretty lengthy here. Let's talk this game against Philly this week coming up. Obviously a team that, was darlings for a little while that's kind of come back down to earth. Just lost on Monday night against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers' company, where Aaron Rodgers looked like he was home. Dude, Rodgers looked like he was 26 again. Like, he looked outstanding.
Bad man.
He's a bad man, dude. He is. Like, at one point, I really believed he was the best football player on the planet. And I still think he might be in the top 20. But, this Philly team is interesting because they like the Bengals, have dealt with a lot of injuries. They've had a lot of drama. Obviously, Josh Huff getting cut for his actions. Nelson Aguilar gets benched, who was their first-round pick a year ago. And
Jordan Matthews hurt. Every running back under the sun for that team has gotten at least 20 carries. Darren Sproles was hurt for a little bit. Wendell Smallwood had a chance. He's played well in his short term playing there. Zach Ertz has been reliable for them for a little while there. And defensively, they have a lot of good spots. They have a lot of guys that you can look forward to seeing play every week. But I don't love this Eagles team. Like, there's nothing when I see them play the Bengals, even though the Bengals are having a rough year where I go, Bengals got no chance. No way. Yeah.
It
feels like I felt like that way with the Ravens and the Bills.
True.
But
the only thing, and obviously the story about the Philadelphia Eagles is Carson Wentz, and I know he's come back down to earth, but I still have loved watching him play this rookie year. I think he's done a lot of good things, but at some point, being the Eagles quarterback catches up to you, because unless you're Michael Vick, Donovan McNabb, or Randall Cunningham, you don't have many good stories about being the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. And,
Ron Jaworski.
Oh, my apologies. I forgot about Jones.
Yeah, what are we doing? What kind of podcast is this?
He wins the Arena Football League championships. Yeah, man. So, I don't know. I feel like the Bengals are the better team, but it doesn't mean I think they'll win because I figured there's some way that they'll mess it up. Mike Nugent will miss a 20-yarder to lose the game. But, Shelby, when you look at this Eagles team, what jumps out to you, good or bad?
It starts with the defense. This is a team that, had a 10-point lead in Dallas on a Sunday night and blew it. A team that stayed at home and beat up on Pittsburgh. Beat up on Atlanta. There's Matt Ryan and Big Ben both go to Philly and put up lay eggs. But last week I don't know if it was the Eagles defense playing bad or if it was like Aaron Rodgers finally coming to life. Maybe he finally talked to his family or something. But it's got to be the defense for me. I think I would say they have a good pass rush, but any team against the Bengals is going to have a good pass rush this year. So that's really what concerns me. And also from an offensive standpoint, it's the same with Dak Prescott. Not that I'm saying Prescott is better than Wentz, but when you give a rookie quarterback, a young quarterback, time to survey the field, and the Bengals pass rush not getting to a young guy like that, he has a chance to do some damage. And the tight ends, Zach Ertz is a great tight end, could hurt the Bengals as opposing tight ends usually do. And also the one guy that scares me the most on the Eagles offense is Darren Sproles.
Yeah.
Both out of the backfield and in special teams. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing is how the Bengals respond to trying to limit Darren Sproles in that pass catching running back because James White had a big game against him. We haven't seen Le'Veon Bell against the Bengals, thankfully, for a while now. But when he was with the Steelers against Cincinnati, he did damage. So I'll definitely be interested to see most from this game how the Bengals respond to those like dual threat running backs.
Matt, bringing you into the conversation here. We know AJ Green's been on the rehab field this week, but doubtful to play this week. Understandable. Same story we got to say last week, and I think we're really starting to see this young man like really develop into a good NFL wide receiver. You've been high on Tyler Boyd since the draft, and you were absolutely right about that. And so, I think that we're going to continue to see this elevation. This guy, like, I don't know if he's going to go out and have his first 100-yard game. I'm not ready to go that crazy, but I really think that I really feel like Tyler Eifert and Tyler Boyd, the Tylers are going to have a big day this week, and I honestly do believe that.
Well, I think where Tyler Boyd really will excel is again against the Steelers, just because that is his hometown team that he's playing against. There's pride there. Against the Eagles, there is some hatred just because, again, he is from this side of the state, and we know how Pittsburgh and Philly hate each other. I mean, we even saw it in the NFL game, how much they hate each other and how much, it really was the pride aspect for the state. And
sure.
So I do think that he's going to have a good game. I don't think he's going to break 100, but, 70, 80 yards isn't out of the question by far. I think we're going to see him get more and more targets as he gets better, and I think Andy Dalton's becoming more comfortable with him, which I'm very, very happy about because, in all honesty, I think he is a guy who very much could be a better Mohamed Sanu and really end up being that number 2 that everybody thought Sanu would eventually turn into when they originally drafted him. And that's a good thing for the Bengals because they need that production, especially after A.J. Green, because, yes, Tyler Eifert is
awesome.
Is awesome, but let's face it, the NFL is finally catching up to these good tight ends and these passing tight ends. And so these receiving tight ends are really becoming accounted for. And so you need that second wide receiver to be a threat, and that's what I am excited about. And I think that this week is another developing week for him to really prove that he is that next guy for the Bengals.
This is kind of like furthering. Sorry to interrupt you, Tim.
No.
Okay, good, because I wasn't sorry.
Attaboy.
It's kind of even more developing into 2010 because, remember that year Owens and Chad both were down, and it was the emergence of Andre Caldwell and Jerome Simpson. And then they ended up having pretty decent years during Dalton's rookie campaign. And I love what Tyler Boyd brings to the table. He's not afraid to go over the middle we've seen this year, diving for passes. Really like this kid.
Yeah, me too.
The one thing that I think Zampese doesn't use him enough in is, again, when he was an ultimate utility player in Pittsburgh, and we don't see them switch it up. He would be the perfect guy to set into a Wildcat formation and maybe throw something that these teams haven't seen before.
Buddy, when they're 7-4, I'm all for Wildcat formations, but they're 3-7-1. Let's not get cute right now.
They got to do something different. It hasn't worked the way it's been going.
Well, it starts with lining Rex Burkhead up in the slot.
Yes. So, all right, guys. Shelby, give a key, give a prediction, and then tell us who you think wins.
Bengals win, obviously. 20-16. I think it's all about keeping Dalton upright this week. I'm not that confident they will, but something tells me, the Bengals playing at home. It's time to finally end this losing streak. We've lost 3 in a row. We haven't won since October 23rd. And, Paul Gunther brings the heat on Wentz because the defense has played pretty well the last 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Matt, what about you?
My prediction, I'm going to go Bengals as well. I'm going to say 24-17. And for the love of God, Mike Nugent, make a freaking kick and field goal and extra point, please.
Yeah, Bengals win 18-17 on 3 6-point touchdowns.
Very likely, sadly. Wow, that's a weird thing. By the way, they're going orange unis this week. Is this the second orange game?
What was the first? Cleveland?
Yeah.
There?
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to say this, guys. I think Tyler Eifert gets back in the end zone. I think Tyler Eifert
You do that every week.
Tyler Eifert's going 3 sacks this week. He's going century mark. And I think Drake Kirkpatrick's going to make another pick because I think Carson Wentz at some point is going to be forced to make a bad throw. And
He'll give you one.
we know Drake Kirkpatrick's going to be there. He's as reliable as it gets this year. So I like the Bengals to win this one. I will say 20-14. I think that they will win this one and they'll get back on track. They're still not making the playoffs.
Is that 2 field goals or is that just a missed extra point?
I will.
Six.
That's 3 touchdowns and a safety. Yes. Because the Eagles are all going to hold the Bengals at the end of the game, and we haven't even touched on that. We won't even get to that. Oh, that makes me mad. All right, guys.
Have we talked about Nugent yet?
Yes.
Or are we not good? Okay.
Yes.
Are we? It's okay.
We've said everything we need to say about Mike Nugent for the last year. Which is weird, because Matt's like as pro Ohio State as it gets, and even he's frustrated with Mike Nugent. That's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
We beat Michigan. That's all I care.
It's time to make picks. Let's start tonight. The Dallas Cowboys go to Minnesota. They're currently down 3-0 in the second quarter. Does Zeke and company pull this one off, Shelby?
I think they do. I just don't think Sam Bradford has enough ability against the Cowboys defense that's been underrated this season. We saw in the Bengals game that they can play. Mm-hmm. So I like the Cowboys in a close, low scoring game, since it's only 3-0 in the second quarter right now.
You know, I almost want to say this is the football equivalent to 1-1 for the Gipper. Since Mike Zimmer had to have emergency eye surgery, we wish him all the best. But you know, I'm going to go the Vikings, and I'm going to go, you know, the 1-1 for the Gipper. I think they just have this motivation that they have to pull one out while he's recuperating. Guys,
what do I say every week?
Tyler Eifert's going to score.
Well, yeah. I say, how about them Cowboys? I'm picking them until they lose. All right. Yeah. That brings us to Sunday afternoon. We have the 8-3 Chiefs going to play the 7-4 Atlanta Falcons. Shelby, 2 teams on a crazy, weird run where, and the Kansas City Chiefs have a budding superstar in Mr. Hill over there.
I want the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl because I felt bad for Andy Reid all these years.
Yeah.
Imagine his job security in Cincinnati. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. The Chiefs secondary stifling Matt Ryan and getting another big win for the Chiefs. They go to 9-3.
I'm done going wild card. I'm going Chiefs on this one, and I for all the reasons Shelby said.
I'm picking the Falcons, man. I feel like they're at home. They're a whole different team. They're a whole other animal. And as much as I love Marcus Peters in that secondary, Julio Jones still is going to find a way to make plays in this one. Which brings us to people in domes that make plays. And according to Matt, he's only good in a dome anyway. Drew Brees and New Orleans Saints facing the Detroit Lions this week. As much as I love what this Lions team has done with these fourth quarter wins, I don't think that's going to happen this week because Drew Brees is going to go crazy.
Yeah, I'm picking the Saints too. I'm really excited to see this game though.
Me too.
After watching all these defensive games of the Bengals, I want to see a shootout, but I'll take the Saints at home.
I'll take the Saints as well. A dome is a dome.
All right, so a old Super Bowl match, but this one of these teams is far from what they were when they were a Super Bowl contender, and the other is New England Patriots. The 9-2 Patriots without Rob Gronkowski facing the 4-7 Rams, where I liked what Jared Goff did last week in New Orleans, but I don't think he's going to do that 2 weeks in a row. Tom Brady and company, even without Gronk, it's going to be a big day for Julian Edelman. It's going to be a big day for Deion Lewis out of the backfield. And we all know what I'm going to say here. The Patriots go 10-2.
And before Shelby gives his pick, all I have to say is Aaron Donald.
How can we forget?
Mike Martz, Marshall Faulk, and Kurt Warner ain't walking through those doors. Patriots roll to an easy win.
Patriots.
So, as Shelby mentioned earlier in the show, there's a good chance that Trevor Siemian will not be making a trip to Jacksonville this week, where Paxton Lynch will be playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And as much as I want to say the Jaguars win an upset because of that, I don't think it's going to matter. I think that this is going to be a terrible game. You want my honest opinion. Like, this is going to be a 13-10 Broncos win. This is how bad that game's going to be.
Yeah, bold prediction. Blake Bortles will throw 3 picks against the state, and that's honestly being like
Modest.
optimistic. Because he throws about, how many passes does he throw a game? About 31, probably like 29 are interceptable.
Yeah.
Not a word.
What happened to him? Like, I thought he was going to be like the next big NFL quarterback.
Well, he takes longer than Byron Leftwich to throw a football.
That's true.
But so I'm taking the Broncos. I think they score a defensive touchdown. They can run the ball against Jacksonville with Devontae Booker and Capri Sims, and they win this game like 24-7.
Did you say Capri Sun?
Sims.
Oh, okay, I heard Capri Sun.
Yeah, I didn't bring my milk money, so I had to get a Capri Sun.
From the rumors I heard, the Jacksonville Jaguars called up Mark Brunell, and Mark Brunell even said he couldn't help this team. So there's no possible way I can go Jacksonville in this one. So
Tom Coughlin ain't walking through those doors.
Soon Tom Coughlin's gonna need a cane to walk anywhere.
Well, he's the next Bengals coach.
Right? You know?
Hey guys, so this game coming up, this next game we're going to talk here. One of these teams has Brock Osweiler quarterback, the other is Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know if you heard us say this earlier, Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. And the bad man is going to put up some bad touchdowns and some bad yards and some bad points. And he's going to beat a bad Texans team.
Yeah, is it in Houston?
It's in Green Bay.
Okay. Well, I was going to pick the Packers anyway. But
that just solidifies it?
Well, yeah, because we know the Texans play better at home.
Right.
But, yeah, I'll pick the Packers. Osweiler struggles always. It seems like even at home last week against the Chargers, he threw 3 picks. I'll roll with the Packers.
By the way, did you know that the creator and franchisee who made the Big Mac died this week? I'm sad. Not as sad.
Out of nowhere.
Hey man, did you know LeBron James won Eastern Conference Player of the Month?
Was he a Packers fan?
But not as sad as what Brock Osweiler will do this week. No. I'm pretty sure, going back to what we were talking about before, that Aaron Rodgers finally got his discount double check back, and it saved him $200 a year. So that's probably what it is. So no, I'm going Packers in this one.
Speaking of random facts, did you know Russell Westbrook had another triple-double?
Really? By the way, are you sitting there watching the Cavs Clippers game?
No, because my Apple TV doesn't get TNT. Let's move on real quick.
First world problems.
This is like the best lather predictions we've ever done. This is awesome. So, talking about weird teams who are weirdly good, I never would have thought this when the Bengals played the Miami Dolphins this year. Sitting at 7-4, going to play the 6-5 Baltimore Ravens, who the Bengals just recently played. My gut says Ravens are going to win this one, but for some reason I have this weird feeling Ryan Tannehill is going to pull off some crazy victory this week. So I guess I'll go Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the hot hand too. Everything points to the Ravens winning this game with their defense and their run defense against Jay Ajayi. And maybe it's the 49ers defense, but Ajayi was supposed to have a career day last week, only had 61 yards, had a goal line touchdown. But I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. I'm gonna go with who I want to win instead of who I think's gonna win. So I'm gonna take the Dolphins.
I haven't heard Ryan Tannehill's wife complaining about the practice team picking off her husband, so I'm going Dolphins as well.
But a good point, Tim. When they came to Cincinnati, we would have never thought this team was going to go 7-4.
No.
Bengals lucky they played them earlier. We'd be 2-8-1 right now.
Right. Then we'd be talking draft.
Who picked them 4 weeks in a row to win, even when the people on the show said that they suck and will never win a game?
Some guy I know at OU.
So, guys, I don't think there's going to be much to watch in this next game, except for Jordan Howard. Because Jordan Howard is going to go crazy on the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think the Bears are going to win. I think Jordan Howard is going to win this game for the Bears. Because Matt Barkley's not going to win it.
Or Jimmy Clausen, for that matter. But I think the Bears will win, too, against the 49ers. Colin Kaepernick's actually looked good the last couple of weeks, and
He's like 30th in the league in rushing right now. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Hey, good for him. But we talk too much about his off the field stuff. But I think the Bears get a win here and against the Niners.
Chip Kelly continues to prove why he's a college coach, not an NFL coach.
Retweet.
So, fair. Where's the mic drop? Bears win this week.
So, I think we're all going to pick this one unanimously. Glove or no glove, Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders go to 10-2, and they're going to beat the Buffalo Bills.
I got a feeling Matt's going to pick the Bills. I don't know why, but I'm going to go with the Raiders too. Kudos to Derek Carr for coming back and winning against Carolina.
Yeah, that figure was gross.
Yeah, just don't think Tyrod Taylor's going to make enough plays, which he hasn't all season. Even though Tim and I, we both like him as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Amari Cooper has a touchdown. Who else?
Seth Roberts. Tyler Eifert. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Derek Carr throws probably 4 touchdowns in this game, and Oakland wins.
Raiders.
All right, so the New York Football Giants at 8-3, going to Pittsburgh to play the 6-5 Pittsburgh Steelers, where this pains me to say, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will win this game, and I don't like it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, don't be wrong. I think Odell Beckham's going to have another one of those 170-yard games, but at the same point, when the Bengals were clicking in that Monday night game, you could tell they couldn't cover A.J. Green and Tyler Eifert and guys like that. What makes you think that they're going to be able to cover Antonio Brown?
Yeah, this might, but what's there to say the Steelers can cover Odell Beckham?
True.
And Victor Cruz and Sterling Shepard. I think this is a high-scoring game between two bad defenses, but I think the Giants' defense, where they spent a lot of money in free agency, is a little bit better than Pittsburgh, so that's why I'm going to pick the Giants.
Well,
they're also the hotter team. Sorry, Matt.
No, you're fine, because what I'm going to ask Tim is, okay, so you mentioned Antonio Brown and the fact that they probably won't be able to cover Antonio Brown. The only problem is, who else do they need to cover in Steelerland?
Le'Veon Bell.
Nobody.
Kobe Hamilton.
Kobe Hamilton, yeah, exactly. No, it literally... I mean, Le'Veon Bell, okay, fine. Well, they had to cover Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill. Yes, I know that's not the same task as Le'Veon Bell, but at the same time, you still have to cover Giovanni Bernard in any case, in any passing game, and that's something that I think they handled all right. So you have 2 players. So you can let the rest of the team go because everybody there drops the ball otherwise. So, yeah, I'm going Giants in this one.
Redskins and Cardinals, the ever-surging Kirk Cousins against the old man who's hit a wall in Carson Palmer. Even though I say that, I like David Johnson to go crazy in this one. I like the Cardinals to win. Shelby,
I like the Cardinals.
I know you love some David Johnson.
Oh, man. David Johnson. This dude's a baller, dude. And even when he has 60 rushing yards, he catches 9 passes for 100-something. And he always finds the end zone. That dude's my boy. But I like the Cardinals secondary against Kirk Cousins. He's putting up great numbers, and I think Washington would be crazy not to sign him. But in this game, I like Arizona's secondary, and I like David Johnson, just like you, Tim.
First off, may I say, because we haven't said it yet, I'm offended that we had to say Redskins. Otherwise...
Washington. Yeah, I don't do podcasts with racists.
Otherwise, I just don't think Redskins are going to win this game. So,
all right. So, guys, we talk about this wide receiving group, and we know that Matt will never give him the credit as due with Jameis Winston, but Mike Evans has become a superstar, and he is outstanding. He's going to be even more outstanding this week, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be 7-5 after this week.
I have Mike Evans on my fantasy team. I love the guy. But anyway, no. Jameis Winston, for some odd reason, seems to have hot and cold games. I think this is a hot game for him. I'm going Tampa Bay.
Who did you say they were playing, Tim? I'm sorry. Sam Bradford threw an interception.
The San Diego Chargers.
Oh. I like the Chargers.
Do you?
They're a team that I've liked all season, and they're a few collapses away from being in the playoff race. And they're in the AFC North right now. They're in first place or close to it. It's just their problem that they're stuck in the cellar of a division that's going to send 3 teams to the playoffs. I like the Chargers.
So
that brings us to Sunday Night Football, where one of the other disappointing teams in the NFL, not named the Bengals, but are a cat, the Carolina Panthers, and the Newton-Wilson rivalry has another chapter, but that's not going to be much of a chapter because Russell Wilson and company are going to dominate this week. The Cam without Luke Kuechly on the other side of the ball, and Cam is had this weird year where it looks like he's had this weird regression where he looks like rookie year Cam again, where he'll have a great game here and there, but other than that he doesn't do much. He might have to have some put a hat out again and get some ideas of how to make the team better. If you remember that press conference, that was the best press conference ever. But I'm gonna go with Danger Russ and the Seattle Seahawks. I think Thomas Rawls will do big things. I really like Doug Baldwin. And, go Seahawks.
Weird game for the Seahawks last week against the Buccaneers. They scored 5 points.
Mike Evans was crazy.
Yeah, and it ended up 14-5. There was no scores in the last 2 quarters. But the Seahawks have potential. And Cam Newton's throwing a lot of bad pick sixes this year, and the Seahawks defense is ripe to get another one, so I'm going with Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going Seattle too, especially after last week where the Panthers essentially had an epic collapse, came back, and then found a way to lose again. So
last game, and if you're really going to watch this game if you're a diehard football fan, because it's Monday Night Football this week is the 5-6 Indianapolis Colts going to play the 3-8 New York Jets. That's really that wasn't flexed. You can't change Monday Night Football.
You can't flex Monday night games.
God, that's so stupid. Because the Giants-Steelers game totally should have been Monday Night Football.
I know. Well, the Bengals-Steelers game isn't going to be on Sunday Night Football. That's going to get flexed.
Yeah. But I guess if I have to pick a team, I don't know. Is Andrew Luck good? Has he been practicing? Do we know?
I don't know, but everyone will be the first to say, "Oh, Andrew Luck's. Oh, it's so sad his offensive line's so bad," but they won't give Andy Dalton the same credit.
Preach.
Thank you. But the Colts are going to win this game against the Jets, and
What are you doing?
I like Frank Gore a lot in this game.
Jets, Jets. The Pittsburgh Penguins just went up 6-2 on Dallas Stars.
What sport is that?
That's the sport that Cincinnati is only known in AHL form and ECHL form, and that's hockey.
Don't sleep on the Cyclones.
Kelly Cup champ.
Well, remember, they used to have the Cincinnati
Ducks.
Mighty Ducks.
Yep. You remember the Cincinnati Stuff? Their ABL basketball team.
Okay.
Didn't they have a team called the Wild Things or something like that at one point too?
There's been 35 arena football teams.
Well, Dayton had an NFL team. The Dayton Triangles.
What was that? 1908.
It was after the Titanic sank, but look it up. Now that was a squad.
And I think on that note, we can go and wrap up this already lengthy edition of Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripeHype.com. Big thanks to everyone for tuning in continuously week after week. Everyone enjoy your week, and hopefully we're talking about a Bengals win next week, getting ready for the Browns, which could be 2 wins in a row. Holla! Have a good week, everyone.
Good day.
Who dat?
The truth is, that really shows what happened.
If you came to prove